Good evening, everyone. It is good to see you again. And today we are going to continue our journey on the mystery of the lost ark. Today it's our fourth stop in the journey, the discovery of Rabbi Yitzhak Hutner. And I am just going to remind us all a little bit of the background that we are studying now. We actually saw that a Chazal say in a couple of places, also in the Bavli, also in the Yerushalmi, that King Yoshiyahu decided to conceal the ark, to hide it in secret vaults under the Temple Mount, that King Solomon, who built the temple, he foresaw that the temple is someday going to be destroyed, so he deliberately built a secret vault that when the time coming, the Levites are going to have to conceal the ark. So King Yoshiyahu found the Sefer Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote, and he opened it up, and it was the verse talking about a destruction. So he understood that a destruction of the temple is coming close. So he came to these Levites. The Levites had the secret of the entrance of the secret tunnel, was a pass from a generation into a generation. And he said to them, you could see over here in source 1, Vayomer LaLeviim HaMevinim, for specific Levites who knew the secret to the tunnel. לכל ישראל הקדושים להשם, תנו את ארון הקודש בבית אשר בנה שלמה בן דוד מלך Israel. Put the ark in the secret vault where King Solomon prepared for it to be hidden. And then pay attention to something very, very interesting about these Levites, that King Yoshiyahu says it to the Levites. He says, En lachem masa b'katef, ata ivdu et Hashem lokechem ve'et amo Yisrael. You are not going to have to carry the ark anymore on your shoulders like was done. Now worship Hashem and His people, Am Yisrael. So the big question that we have to ask ourselves, this is mind-boggling. What actually changed in the work of the Levites? For hundreds of years already, since the building of the temple, the Levites did not carry the ark. They did not have to take it out of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. The ark was in the Holy of the Holies for 400 years. It was for hundreds of years in the Holy of Holies. So what is this big change that King Yoshiyahu actually tells them that is going to occur at the moment that the ark is concealed? This is a matter of a complete incomprehension. We can't understand what King Yoshiyahu is telling them. So what do you say? What is the meaning of this? Why does he tell them that they don't have to carry the ark? They anyway didn't carry the ark for hundreds of years. So what is this big change that he's talking about? So
I'm thinking with no idea.
So this is where the discovery of a Rabbi Yitzhak Hutner comes into place. Rabbi Yitzhak Hutner was known as the Pachad Yitzhak. He was a great rabbi who lived not long ago. I actually know one of his pupils, and there is in a Har Nof, there's a big yeshiva called the Pachad Yitzhak, and then he is called the Pachad Yitzhak in the name of the series of books that he wrote called the Pachad Yitzhak. And then he writes in one of his famous letters, he writes about the concealment of the ark actually was an end of an era. And he says like this, we could see in source number 4. One has to know that throughout history there were a few items that were concealed. The Luchot, the Ten Commandments, the Mishkan was concealed, and also the Ark was concealed. בוודאי שמכל גניזה היו תוצאות בדרכי התורה ועבודה. Every concealment actually changed the way to study Torah and to worship Hashem. ומפורש הוא הדבר בכתוב בדברי יאשיהו המלך. And this is exactly the verse that we just mentioned, that the king Yoshiyahu says, שבשעת גניזת הארון, שאמר שגניזת הארון, the concealment of the ark, הולידה חידוש באופייה של תורה ועבודה. It actually it was the mark of an end of an era and the beginning of a new era. So we have to try and discover what was the way of working Hashem before the concealment of the ark, and what is the way to work Hashem after the concealment of the ark. So we have to try to understand the meaning of the chains. So what do you say? What do you think was the change, the spiritual change in Judaism before? How was Judaism different after the concealment of the ark?
Well, I feel like we would have been at a much lower level spiritually.
Afterwards.
Afterwards, definitely. Like how Jews were before we were kicked out of Eretz Israel. We were just generally at a much higher spiritual level. As we started to lose things and drift away, all of Am Yisrael started to come down.
Okay, very good. That is a beautiful explanation, which actually we are going to try and understand it. What was the difference in the spiritual level? Any more suggestions to try and understand what was the difference in the way of the working Hashem before the concealment of ark and after the concealment of ark? How is Judaism different? So in order to answer this question, we have to ask, what did what way did the ark represent? What did the ark symbolize in worshipping Hashem? So the obvious answer would be etaruta dele'ela. What is etaruta dele'ela? This is a Kabbalistic phrase, and it means great miracles. It means that the presence of Hashem is obvious. Everything is clear. For example, at the time of the Midbar, there were miracles. There was the manna, the parting of the Red Sea at the beginning, all of the miracles in the Midbar. Everything was so clear, so powerful. And we also found regarding the ark, it used to lift those who carried it. As you could see in the picture here, this is a beautiful painting of a Yoshua Weissman, who actually studied here in a Machon Meir, and he's a wonderful painter. So you could see that he painted here the Levites carrying the ark, but actually the ark carried them. So there's a midrash also that you could see in the source 5. חביבו אהרון שהמשכן כולו לא נעשה אלא בשביל אהרון. בכל הניסים שהיו נעשים בישראל, באהרון היו נעשים. All of the miracles in the midbar were connected to the Aaron. And so therefore, when King Yoshiyahu conceals the Aaron, it is actually the end of an era. And the end of an era of great miracles, of the presence of Hashem is clear. Everything is obvious. There is actually a change. And this is what the Chazal say, that the divine presence was not felt at the second temple. אלו 5 דברים שהיו בין מקדש ראשון למקדש שני. There were 5 things that were different between the first temple and the second temple. ואלו הם, and these are they. ארון, והארק וכפורת וכרובים אש, ושכינה, the divine presence, ורוח הקודש, ואורים ותומים. So actually there was a big change in the presence of Hashem in the second temple after the concealment of the ark. There were no great miracles anymore, only hidden miracles, natural miracles. This is perhaps the difference between Purim and Hanukkah. Purim, it says about Purim, you turn the page. This is what Rabbi Yitzhak says. Rabbi Yitzhak, he says that based on a Chazal, you can see in Yesor say 7, Chazal Amar Ravasi, Lama Nimshala Esther Leshachar. Esther, the book of Esther is connected to dawn. Why? Ma shachar sof kol halayla. Dawn is actually the end of a night. When I was in the IDF, so there always was the time of dawn was the most difficult time to guard, because that at dawn it is actually the end of the night. And because it's the end of the night, everything is even darker. Okay? Af Esther Sof Kol HaNisim. As the dawn is the end of the night, the book of Esther is actually the end of the miracles. Now, it does not mean the end of the miracles altogether. It means the end of the obvious miracles, the great miracles. After Esther, after the book of Esther, it is now hidden miracles. So, for example, Hanukkah is actually hidden miracles because one can explain the victory of the Maccabees with all kinds of strategic and tactical plans that Matityahu and Yehuda Maccabee they managed to defeat the Greeks. But the miracle of the jug of oil actually tells us that the victory in the war, it only seemed like nature, but it actually was a hidden miracle. So actually, the point in history that we could put a finger on that actually was the difference between the era of great miracles and the era of hidden miracles was the concealment of the ark. That actually was the change, the point of change. So the beginning of the new era was after the concealment of the ark. It was at the time of the Second Temple. Now, if you could look over here on a source 8, if we want to understand what exactly was the change in a deeper level, we actually have to look at the two pictures over here. Okay, so if you could please look at these pictures on page 3. First of all, these are your pictures are from a Machon Meir, the Institute of a Mikdash, which is in the Jewish quarter of the old city in Jerusalem, and they do wonderful things. You should go there. You see it. They actually built the golden menorah. I'm sure that you saw the golden menorah. So if you go on a tour in the Machon Meir, so they actually have everything prepared for the building of the temple. It is amazing what they did there. And there's a wonderful rabbi who did many, many great things, Rav Yisrael Ariel, and he is actually the head of Machon Meir. And they had beautiful pictures, beautiful paintings that they had great artists actually draw all of the different stages that they used to do in the temple, and all of the different vessels, and all of the different festivals, and the sacrifices. Everything. It is amazing. You see the pictures and you go there. Right, Natan, that is one of the pictures of the Machon Meir. Beautiful paintings. So I chose here 2 paintings which I would like you to pay attention to. And you could see here that on the altar, the Mizbeach, there were actually planks of wood. You could see the Kohanim in the picture actually placing the planks of wood in the place, and then they had to light it. Okay? Now, there was a big difference between the first temple and the second temple. At the first temple, so it is true that the Kohanim lit it, but fire came from heaven and actually formed the greatest part of the lighting of the altar. But at the time of the second temple, it didn't happen. There was no fire that came from heaven. It was all from the hand of man. Okay? Now, this is something very, very, very important, and I'm going to explain why. First of all, this is the difference between the first temple and the second temple. Because if we said that on the first temple, everything came from heaven, okay? At the second temple, it came from man. So why is this important? Because that, if you remember, we had talked at our first lesson that we spoke about the ark. We said that the ark was concealed in the wood chamber, okay? The same wood chamber that they used to take the planks of wood in order to light the altar, okay? And why is this significant? What is the spiritual meaning of that the ark was hidden in the chamber of wood? So I would like to present to you a beautiful explanation of a Piasetzner Rebbe. Now, I am just going to tell a small story about the Piasetzner Rebbe. He lived in Poland, and he was murdered during the Holocaust, and many years afterwards, the Reb Shlomo Carlebach was actually walking on the streets of Tel Aviv, and then he saw someone who was cleaning the streets. And then Reb Shlomo he used to speak to everyone and used to embrace everyone. So he started speaking to him, and he asked him, "Where were you from?" So he said, "I came from Piasetzner." And then Reb Shlomo was so thrilled. He said, "You came from Piasetzner? Did you know the Piasetzner Rebbe?" So he said, "Yes." So Reb Shlomo said to him, "Could you tell me something that the Piasetzner Rebbe said?" So the street cleaner said, "Yes. But first I'm going to wash my hands," and he did a Netilat Yadayim because that he wanted to say the words of the Rebbe of the Piasetzner. And he said that you have to know that I was in the camps and I saw the most terrible things. But what gave me strength all these years, and even when I came to the land of Israel, all of my family were murdered by the Nazis. And a few times I thought of committing a suicide. I went to the ocean in Tel Aviv and I said, that's it, I'm going to go in the ocean and I'm going to die. But at that moment I remembered the words of the Rebbe of Piasetzna. And what did he say? That I remembered all these years, but gave me strength, also in Auschwitz and also in all the difficult times, is what the Rebbe of Piasetzna said. The greatest thing in the world is to do something good to another person. So this is what Reb Shlomo Carlebach heard from this man who actually met the Piasetzna Rebbe, and then Reb Shlomo has got a beautiful story about this and also a song that you should hear, and I guess that you could find it online, and just some a time ago. So great singer Aharon Razael, he actually he created a beautiful song about this story. You should check it online. So anyway, what did the Piasetzna Rebbe say about the concealment of the Aron, of the Ark, and what is the meaning of that it was concealed in the wood chamber? So he says that since the Ark represents the most the etaruta de le'elav, the great miracles that come from above, the fact that it was concealed in the wood chamber, in the place that represents the most the hand of man, it actually tells us now that the avodat Hashem, the way of worshipping Hashem, has changed. At the first temple, so it was connected to from above. It was connected to the miracles and the divine presence and everything. But at the second temple onwards, it has changed. The worshipping Hashem actually depends on etaruta delatata, the man's hand. So since the wooden chamber, as you could see in these pictures on the left-hand side, on a page 3, that actually show the Kohanim lighting the fire, lighting the planks of wood themselves, so it represents the hand of man. So if you could turn please to page 5, and with this we are going to conclude. When we talk about the spiritual significance of the concealment of the ark, we must talk about the prophecy of Yirmiyahu. And there is a prophecy of Yirmiyahu that says they will no longer say the Ark of the Covenant of Hashem. So Yirmiyahu actually describes a new era that the Ark does not take a main place. And then the commentators are trying to understand what is exactly what was the significance of the ark before, that after the prophecy it isn't going to be materialized. So Rashi says that what it means that everything is going to be holy, okay? Everything is going to be holy. The holiness of the ark is going to expand. It is going to expand to one's home. It is going to expand on all of Jerusalem, and the divine presence is going to dwell everywhere as if it was in the ark. And also the Abarbanel also goes according to this way, and he says that the holiness isn't only going to be in the place of the ark, it is going to expand to all of Jerusalem. And different commentators like the Radak, they actually talk about an era that there isn't going to be, that wars aren't going to be necessary anymore, because that Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, are going to be so special, and they're going to succeed, and the nations of the world are just going to admire us. So, perhaps both of these different commentaries can complete the picture for us for the spiritual significance of the concealment of the ark. So, what does it mean that the holiness of the ark is going to expand? So, perhaps we can say, as the Pietetzner Rebbe said, that if the fire came from man, that the fire of the altar came from the hand of man, from the deeds of man. So, if, even though man has difficulties in earning a living, in dealing with the material aspects of life, even then, if he's going to study Torah, and he's going to ignite in his heart the fire and the love for Hashem, if man is going to turn his home into a sanctuary, into a small Beit Mikdash, and is going to live a Torah in his heart, then the holiness of the ark is actually concealed inside of us. So, when we elevate ourselves to this spiritual level, so the prophecy of Yirmiyahu is actually going to be materialized, that they will no longer say the Ark of the Covenant of Hashem, that is the source of the holiness. No. The holiness is going to be in our hearts. The holiness is going to be in our home. The holiness is going to be in our lives. We are not going to need miracles to ignite the fire. We are going to do it. We are going to ignite the fire, the enthusiasm in our lives. So, this is perhaps the discovery of the Rabbi Hutner, that he said that the concealment of the ark is actually an end of an era, but it is also a beginning of an era. A beginning of an era that the holiness is not going to be only centered in the ark, it is going to be centered in our heart, in our lives, and in our home. So, yes.
Here. So there's a prophecy, I'm not sure if it's Yirmiyahu or Yeshayahu, that Hashem will replace the stone tablets with tablets of flesh. I'm not sure if that's the correct translation. And put those into our hearts. So, in order for this prophecy to become true, the ark had to be hidden down, right? Or if that's
Perhaps. What I remember from the
elevate.
prophecy, it is that it says a hasiroti et lev ha'even mi kilbechem, the heart of stone, and I'm going to put a heart of a flesh.
Right.
That is the prophecy of the prophet Ezekiel.
Yechezkel. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So yes, one could connect it. Yes. More questions, more explanations? Okay, great. So it is a good to see you. And B'ezrat Hashem, next time we are going to, next week we are going to actually conclude the journey in the footsteps of a mystery of a lost ark. We are going to deal with a very intriguing question. Is it allowed to use technological devices in order to search for the lost ark? So this is a very important question. It is also a halachic question, and it is also a spiritual question. And there was a big dispute about it, based on a real story that actually took place. And then all of that we are going to talk about next time.
תודה רב.